In this video, I'm going to share with you the answers to some of the most popular questions I get asked about the driving test. If you want to learn more about driving and if you want to increase your chances of passing that test, then hit that subscribe button and the bell notification where you can be notified whenever I upload a new video. If you enjoy what I do here and you appreciate the content, then consider making a voluntary donation by PayPal. Links will be in the description. So, one of the most common questions I get asked is about the reverse around the corner. People often ask, should you indicate when you are reversing around the corner? The answer is no. You don't have to indicate when reversing around the corner. But if you want to indicate left and it makes you feel better, then go for it. But there's no special rules saying that you have to indicate. The reversing lights come on anyway, so that's enough of an indication. But if you want to indicate left as you reverse around the corner, then that's fine as well. Check out this video on reversing around a corner for a detailed explanation and demonstration on reversing around the corner. Links will be in the description. The turnabout is next. People often ask, do you indicate on the turnabout? The answer here is yes. You indicate on the turnabout at the start, so your first leg when you're moving out to the right. But you don't have to indicate for any other part of the turnabout, okay? Just the start, that's all. Some people also ask, do you have to do the turnabout in 3 turns? No, you don't have to do it in 3. It's not a 3-point turn, it's a turnabout. Now, if it's safe to do it in 3 and you have enough space and it's practical to do it in 3 turns, then you should do it in 3. But if you have a slightly bigger car and you're on a bit of a narrow road, then you are under absolutely no obligation to do it in 3. It's far more important to be observing properly and showing good control of the clutch and brake. For a detailed demonstration and explanation of the turnabout, you will see this video in the description, a link to it in the description, so check that out and you'll see me doing a turnabout in that video. Next question is on stop signs. People ask me sometimes, do you have to stop at a stop sign even if there's nobody coming? This reminds me of a joke I used to tell in school. What's pink and fluffy? Pink fluff. What do you do at a stop sign? Stop. So I hope this clears it up. For those of you who haven't quite grasped what I said, you have to stop at a stop sign even if there's nothing coming. Even if there's no sign of any pedestrians, any cars, stop means stop. Next question is on gears. People often ask, should I go down the gears one by one or should I skip a gear and go from 4 to 2? The answer is it doesn't really matter too much. You can do either one. I often say go down one by one if you have time and you have a nice long run into the junction. But definitely skip a gear if you're stuck for time or you've left it a little bit late. It depends on the junction. As long as you keep the gears smooth, there shouldn't be any problem skipping a gear or going down one by one. I have made a detailed video on this topic on gears, so I will leave a link in the description for that video. People often ask, should I stop in second gear or should I stop in first or third? It kind of depends on the situation, but in most cases I would say stop in second gear. There's not much point in going down to first gear if you're going to be stopping at a red light or a stop sign, because you can always go to first gear after you stop. So there's no point in putting extra work on yourself. You could potentially stop in third gear if you wanted to, or fourth gear. Just make sure the car doesn't struggle on the way down. And then if you do stop in third or fourth, just skip second and go straight to first gear. So you can technically stop in whatever gear you want to, but I think it's better and more practical to stop in second gear. Another question on gears then people ask is about waiting. So people often ask, should I wait in first gear at lights, for example, or should I wait in neutral? I always say wait in first gear. Now, it does depend on the situation, of course. You could certainly wait in neutral at lights or at a busy stop sign or something if you're further back in the queue. You know, if you're maybe third or fourth or fifth back, you could definitely wait in neutral then and kind of give your foot a rest. But if you're at or near the top of the queue, in the top 2 or 3, I definitely recommend waiting in first gear because you're ready to move off then. So when the time comes to go, when the light goes green, for example, you don't have to go and mess around with the gear stick or any other stuff. You're just pretty much ready to go. People often ask as well, should I use the handbrake at lights, or can I just wait with the handbrake down? Again, it sort of depends on the situation, but generally speaking, I say to people, yes, use the handbrake at lights because it gives you more security. The car is going to feel more secure, less likely to roll back or roll forward or anything like that. Now, having said that, if you come to traffic lights or even a stop sign and it's slightly downhill and you're only stopped for literally a second or two, then there's no need to use the handbrake then. But if you're stopped for any length of time at lights or anywhere else, you should use the handbrake. I have made a detailed video on when to use the handbrake. In fact, I've made a couple, so I'm going to put links to those videos on the handbrake in the description. So make sure you check out those after this video. People ask sometimes about the electric handbrake or the automatic handbrake, where you have a little button and you kind of put your fingers under the button and pull it up to work it. This comes up occasionally because a lot of the more modern cars have this type of handbrake. It's absolutely fine to use this. I mean, I don't see what choice you have. That's the handbrake you have to use it, okay? You don't have to physically let it down. Like when you accelerate and bring up the clutch, the handbrake will automatically go down anyway. I've made a video on automatic handbrakes, so you can check that out in the description after this video, and you'll see me demonstrating how to use an automatic or electric handbrake. These type of cars often come with an auto hold as well, which stops the car rolling back, and you have the option sometimes of turning this on or turning it off. I normally advise people to turn this off because I think it's easier to creep out and have more control at a blind junction if you do not have the auto hold on. But it is entirely up to you. It can depend on the car. Some cars are a bit more easier to use the auto hold with. It just depends. That's a decision you're going to have to make for yourself in conjunction with your driving instructor. But you can use the auto hold or you can turn it off. There's no special rules saying that you have to use it or don't use it. All cars have their own technology, and it's important that we embrace and use this technology in general and for the test. And speaking of cars technology, people occasionally ask about a reversing camera. Sometimes on the dash, maybe above the radio or something like that, you may have a reversing camera where you can actually see behind you after the car goes into reverse gear. There's nothing wrong with using this as long as you don't use it all the time when you're reversing around a corner or doing a turnabout or any kind of reverse parking, for example. It's there to be used. The technology, as I said a few moments ago, should be embraced. But if you are reversing around the corner, for example, just make sure that you don't look in the reversing camera all the time. You can look at it occasionally, but it should only be done in conjunction with regular mirror checks and, crucially, looking over both shoulders in your blind spots. Sometimes people ask me about the theory part of the driving test. At the start, you will be asked a couple of questions and a couple of road signs. People sometimes worry that if they get some or all of these wrong, that it could impact the result of the test. It's not going to impact the result of the driving test overall that much, okay? If you get 3 or more questions wrong, you are going to lose a mark. If you get 1 or 2 questions wrong, you will probably lose a minor mark. So the most you can lose is 1 kind of medium-sized mark. It's not going to be a huge issue if you get all your questions wrong. But try and prepare as best you can so you don't have to worry about that anyway. People often ask as well about overtaking cyclists. So a question like this might arise. Let's say you have a cyclist on the road and there's a continuous white line in the middle. Am I allowed to cross the continuous white line to overtake the cyclist? The answer is yes, you are allowed to cross the continuous white line to overtake a hazard or a cyclist. Now, the reason for this is the cyclist is moving very slowly, well, probably moving slowly. So that means you're going to be on the wrong side of the road for a very short period of time. So provided you can plan ahead, provided you read the road ahead, you check your mirrors, you make sure there's nobody coming towards you, and you can get the overtaking maneuver done efficiently and safely, there's nothing wrong with crossing the white line. There are always going to be exceptions in driving. Normally you should not cross the white line unless it's an emergency or instructed to by a guard or something like that, but sometimes there's going to be exceptions, and this could be one of those exceptions. And speaking of hazards, people often ask me, do I need to indicate when I'm overtaking an obstruction such as a parked car or a cyclist or anything like that? It kind of depends on the situation again. I often say, if you feel that you're crossing the middle white line, and if there's no middle white line, let's just say you're crossing the middle of the road, the part of the road where the white line would be if there was one there. So if you feel you're crossing that part of the road, then yes, indicate. Give a quick indicator of maybe 3 or 4 clicks. If you do not feel that you're crossing the centre white line, there should be no need to indicate. So it does depend on the situation, as you can imagine. I have left a link in the description for hazards, so check out that link and you will see me explaining and demonstrating how to deal with hazards. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And I'm going to be back streaming live on Saturday at 12 o'clock. So tune in there if you have any questions about driving or the driving test. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.